The bounce of the tennis ball echoed like a heartbeat across the court, steady, relentless. Each impact felt as heavy as the choice she faced. Osato knew what was at stake, yet here she was, holding her racket with trembling hands, torn between her love for the game and the life she'd built with Femi. Marriage was a commitment, a bond rooted in tradition and love. But so was her dream, a fire that had lived in her heart long before she'd met Femi. She wanted both, a life where she could be a wife and a tennis player, but the path forward seemed anything but clear. Osato was born and raised in a close-knit community in Edo State, Nigeria. Her childhood was simple, filled with days of school, chores, and the familiar streets of her neighborhood. But what set Osato apart was her unusual passion for tennis. From a young age, she had been drawn to the sport. Her father, Ovi, had played tennis at the local level in his youth and loved to take Osato to the courts to play. He was the one who taught her everything he knew, recognizing her natural talent long before anyone else did. While her friends played games or helped at home, Osato would be on the dusty tennis court, her father cheering her on as she practiced serves, volleys, and ground strokes. "Osato, remember," he'd say with a smile, "it's not just about hitting the ball, it's about focus, discipline, and heart." And Osato took his words to heart, dreaming of the day she might step into a real tournament and make her mark. As she grew older, her skill blossomed, and she quickly became the pride of her community. People would stop by to watch her play, murmuring in admiration. By the time she was 18, she was known as the Court Queen, a nickname that both embarrassed and delighted her. But for Osato, it was about more than just recognition. Tennis had become part of her identity, a path she wanted to follow. The world felt wide open, full of possibilities. Little did she know, her dreams would soon clash with another path she'd never expected, one of love and family. Osato met Femi at a friend's wedding celebration. He was tall, with an easy smile and a confidence that caught her attention immediately. Unlike the boys she had grown up around, Femi carried himself with a calm, steady energy. He was from a neighboring town and worked as an engineer, earning a good living and respected by his peers. He noticed her from across the room too, and later told her he couldn't look away. To Femi, Osato seemed like a bright, untamed flame, a contrast to his own quiet, traditional world. They struck up a conversation, and before they knew it, they had spent the entire evening talking. Osato found herself drawn to his grounded nature, his wisdom, and the way he listened. Femi, on the other hand, was captivated by her passion, her dreams, and her radiant smile. Their courtship was swift, and within a few months, they were married in a traditional ceremony, surrounded by family and friends. Osato was overjoyed with her new life as a wife. Femi was loving and attentive, supporting her in all that she did, at least at first. He knew she loved tennis and encouraged her to continue playing, but as the months went by, he began to grow uneasy with her commitment to the sport. She was spending long hours on the court, sometimes coming home late, and her ambitions seemed to be taking her farther away from home. The first real argument happened one rainy evening. Osato had just come home from a practice session, exhausted but exhilarated. She was working on improving her serves, and her coach had hinted at an opportunity to enter a local tournament. She couldn't contain her excitement and told Femi as soon as she walked through the door. She expected him to be happy for her, but instead, she saw a flicker of disapproval in his eyes. "Osato, don't you think this tennis thing is taking too much of your time?" he asked, trying to keep his voice even. "We have a home to build together, a future to plan. You're my wife now." Osato felt a pang of guilt, but quickly brushed it aside. "Femi, tennis has been part of my life since I was a child. You knew this when we got married. It doesn't change my commitment to you, but it's more than a hobby for you, he countered. You talk about it like it's a career, and a career is a commitment that takes you away from home, from family. Is that what you really want? His words cut deep, but she didn't want to argue. She simply nodded and went to bed, hoping that he would come to understand her passion in time. But the issue didn't go away. Over the next few months, Femi grew more vocal about his concerns, and Osato found herself caught in a tug-of-war between her love for her husband and her love for the game. Despite the tension, Osato couldn't shake her dreams. She trained quietly, keeping her ambitions to herself, yet every practice session brought her closer to a choice she knew she'd have to make. Then came the opportunity of a lifetime, a chance to enter a high-profile tournament that could pave the way to professional success. She felt a rush of excitement and fear, knowing she'd have to tell Femi. When she did, his reaction was exactly what she feared. He shook his head, a look of disappointment clouding his face. Osato, this isn't what I envisioned for our family, he said, his voice steady but cold. You're my wife. We need to think about what's best for us, not just for you. Torn between his words and her own desires, Osato felt trapped. But after long nights of reflection, she decided to enter the tournament without telling him. She knew it was risky, that she might hurt him, but she also knew that if she didn't try, she would regret it for the rest of her life. On the day of the tournament, Osato's nerves were frayed. She could feel her heart pounding as she took her place on the court. The crowd buzzed with excitement, and as the first ball was served, she let herself be consumed by the rhythm of the game. All her worries and fears melted away. She was exactly where she was meant to be. Match after match, Osato fought her way to the finals, her body aching but her spirit unyielding. She wanted this victory not only for herself, but to prove to Femi that tennis wasn't just a game. It was part of who she was. Each win felt like a step closer to redemption, to finding a way to keep both her marriage and her dreams alive. After her semi-final win, Osato returned home, exhausted but elated. She expected Femi to be asleep, but he was waiting for her, his face drawn and his expression hard. He'd found out about the tournament from a friend who'd seen her name in the papers. Osato, he began, his voice thick with hurt. Why didn't you tell me? Is your ambition more important than our marriage? The guilt hit her like a wave. She tried to explain, to tell him that tennis was more than ambition. It was her calling, her joy. She begged him to understand, to see that she could be both his wife and a player. But Femi was hurt, feeling as though she had chosen her dream over him. Seeing her father-in-law deeply troubled by her choice, Osato's own father stepped in. He visited Femi, sharing stories of how he had nurtured Osato's dreams, how tennis had been a part of their family's legacy. Femi listened, realizing he had misunderstood the depth of her love for the game, and that it didn't mean she loved him any less. On the day of the finals, Osato was shocked to see Femi in the stands. His presence filled her with a strength she hadn't known before, and she played with everything she had, winning the match and claiming victory not just for herself, but for her marriage too. As the whistle blew and the match began, Osato felt a rush of energy surging through her. The court was packed. Spectators lined up along the sides, cheering and clapping. But it was Femi's face in the crowd that kept her grounded, anchoring her through the swirl of emotions. She took a deep breath and focused, each swing of her racket an expression of her determination, her love for the game, and her desire to finally reconcile the two parts of her life she treasured most. Every time she scored a point, she glanced at Femi. She saw the pride mixed with apprehension in his eyes, and it gave her strength. For the first time, she didn't feel torn. She felt whole, as though Femi's presence was her permission to embrace her dream fully. She could feel his support, his willingness to try and understand, and it drove her to give her best performance yet. When the final point was scored and the victory was hers, the crowd erupted. Her teammates and friends flooded the court, lifting her up in celebration. Osato scanned the crowd, searching for Femi. She found him standing near the edge, watching her with a mixture of relief, admiration, and love. She ran to him, her heart pounding, and they embraced. As he held her tightly, Femi whispered, "Osato, I see it now. I see how much this means to you. I'm sorry for not understanding before." Her eyes filled with tears as she clung to him. "Thank you, Femi. I never wanted to choose between you and my dream. I wanted both because I love both. I'm so grateful you're here." Her passion made him think about his own dreams and aspirations. He confided in her about his desire to start a small engineering firm, something he had always put on the back burner. Together, they talked late into the night, planning and envisioning a future where both of them could achieve their dreams. In time, Osato became a well-known name in Nigerian tennis, a beloved figure who had inspired many young women to chase their dreams. Her story resonated with others, showing that one could embrace both ambition and love without sacrificing either. Femi became her biggest advocate, sharing her story with pride and encouraging others to see that supporting a partner's dream didn't diminish their own identity, it strengthened it. Life as a professional athlete was demanding, with training camps, travel, and endless tournaments. There were days when Osato felt overwhelmed, struggling to balance her responsibilities at home with the rigor of her training. She and Femi had to navigate the new dynamics of their relationship, and sometimes it wasn't easy. There were still moments of frustration and misunderstanding, but they were learning to work through them together. Femi took on more responsibilities at home, helping with meals, errands, and handling family obligations. He became Osato's rock, managing everything that allowed her to focus on her career. They found a rhythm, learning to lean on each other and understanding that balance wasn't a fixed point. It was something they had to create together, day by day. As Osato traveled to different cities for tournaments, Femi would join her whenever he could, cheering her on from the stands. And on the days he couldn't be there, they would talk on the phone, with Femi listening intently as she described each match in detail. Their connection grew stronger with each conversation, and the distance brought them closer in ways they hadn't anticipated. A few years into her career, Osato and Femi decided they were ready to start a family. It was a decision they didn't take lightly, knowing it would bring new challenges. Osato was at the height of her career, and balancing motherhood with professional sports would require sacrifices. But they both felt ready, excited to bring new life into the world and share their story with future generations. Their daughter, whom they named Ife, was born a year later. Ife grew up watching her mother play tennis and seeing her father's unwavering support. Osato made a promise to herself to teach her daughter the values her own father had instilled in her: discipline, focus, and heart. The journey of balancing her career with family life wasn't easy. Osato often felt torn between spending time with Ife and keeping up with her training. But Femi's encouragement never wavered. He reminded her that their daughter was watching, learning from her every step. Together, they raised Ife with the understanding that both dreams and family were worthy of pursuit, teaching her that a woman could be strong, ambitious, and loving all at once. As Osato's career progressed, she became a role model for young girls in her community and across Nigeria. She spoke at schools and community centers, sharing her journey and encouraging girls to believe in themselves. She wanted them to know that they didn't have to choose between love and ambition, that with the right support, they could have both. Femi stood by her side during these events, often speaking as well, sharing his own journey of learning and growth. He talked about how supporting his wife's dream had not only enriched their marriage, but had also opened doors for him, inspiring him to pursue his own dreams. Together, they were a powerful example of partnership, showing others that love could be a source of strength and not a limitation. Years later, Osato and Femi would sit together, reflecting on their journey. They remembered the days of struggle, the difficult conversations, and the sacrifices they had made. They laughed at the memories of their early arguments and the many times they doubted if they could make it work. But as they looked at their family and the life they had built together, they felt a deep sense of gratitude. Their love had grown through every trial, and their journey had become a story of hope and resilience. They had shown that even in a world of expectations and traditions, it was possible to carve out a unique path that honored both dreams and family. As Ife grew, she too developed a love for tennis. Watching her mother play had ignited a spark in her, and with Osato's encouragement, she began training, just as Osato had done with her own father. The legacy of love, ambition, and support was now being passed down to a new generation. Ife's journey was different, shaped by the sacrifices her parents had made. She knew from a young age that she could dream big, and she did so with her mother's confidence and her father's steady support. Together, the family became known as pioneers in their community, embodying the spirit of resilience and the strength of partnership. For Osato and Femi, life had come full circle. They had built a home filled with love, hope, and the courage to follow dreams. And in that home, they raised a daughter who would carry forward their legacy. A legacy rooted in love, resilience, and the unwavering belief that anything was possible when two hearts stood together. Thanks for taking your time. If you enjoy my story, please click on subscribe button and notification button and get more of this mind-blowing stories. And please don't forget to comment, like, and share as we give you more mind-blowing stories.